It's a nice shirt.
Well, thanks.
Got it.
Victoria.
Did you?
I did.
That's cool.
Alright, hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we are going to talk about some things to think about when you're converting your RRSP into your RRIF, and it also felt like a really good opportunity for me to introduce Sean Lecomber to everybody. Let's call Sean, he's my new associate while Tanya was on maternity leave. He's also my part-time secretary, pretty much just as good looking as Tanya.
Great facial symmetry.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sean has been a very welcomed addition to this team. We've been spending a lot of the summer sort of organizing some things, and if you don't know who Sean Lecomber is, you should, because in my opinion, he is truly one of the best comedians in this country. He's also a really good friend of mine, and one thing that that part's true.
That part is true.
One thing you might understand from COVID is that it obviously sort of killed the comedy industry. And Sean and I were talking over the year, and I was talking about how K4 was growing, and we've talked about my business a lot on the road, and he said, you know, would you ever need somebody like me that doesn't know anything but is kind of funny and knows how to write an email? And I said, well, I don't know if I could use you, but everybody in this business has to start somewhere, and I know something about Sean is that he's one of the brightest guys I know. So I said, look, take the mutual fund course that every sort of bank advisor takes.
And I nailed it.
Yeah, you did. And, and if that is of interest to you, then we can talk about some things going forward. And so you did it.
I did it. What is it? Yeah, I don't know what, I don't want to talk about my final grade because then everybody will run from the video, but
right.
It was fun. I did it in my, I did it online. So they had to like look at everything. So it was on my laptop. Mm-hmm. And then they said to move my laptop and look at the ceiling, you know, under my shirt and everything.
Right, so you're not cheating.
Yeah, and this was all after the test too, so I thought that was inappropriate.
Right. They just wanted to see you with your shirt off.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but he did that, he aced it, and that is the basic guideline of just what every bank advisor needs. So your bank advisor has what Sean has. And truth be told, I wouldn't let Sean go and talk to a client without my...
Whoa, but now you tell me.
Right.
What a waste of a summer.
Right. But in my opinion, this business, you need to train as an associate before you can become somebody that is trusted to give that advice. So that's what Sean and I are working on, and he's helping with administrative stuff and learning, and going to deal with some smaller client issues, and I'll teach him how to become a financial planner over time.
And Kent is a great teacher. And
in about 2 weeks' time, we're also bringing on another CFP, somebody that I started with in this business 10, 11 years ago, and we're really excited to bring him on. But I thought, what a perfect opportunity to introduce Sean to a team, and he can tell you guys a story about when he went with his dad to the bank. Mm-hmm. His dad loves the bank, to talk about converting his RRSP into a RRIF, and then I'll explain why the bank answered the questions the way that they did, and some things that you should actually think about when you're making this decision for yourself.
Yeah, because I think the important thing to know about my dad, he's 71, and the most important thing to remember about my dad is that he loves the bank more than he loves his family.
Right. And
it's just a weird relationship. Yeah, he just loves his branch. Like, he thinks the people there love him. He thinks he's on the, it's like Cheers. Right? Like, he walks into the bank, Norm, like he thinks he's Norm from Cheers.
Right.
But instead of yelling Norm, they're yelling, who is that? They don't know who he is. They don't know his name. We went in there one time when we didn't have an appointment, and he was talking to the ladies that he normally talks to, and because he didn't have an appointment, they didn't know his name. Like, they only knew his name because they would see, like, okay, 2:30, Michael Lecomber, hello, Michael Lecomber. We went in unannounced, and they were like, good afternoon, older gentleman,
Right.
with no name, I assume. And even that didn't dissuade him. Even the time when they had no idea who he was after 20 years of being there, he was not deterred by that at all.
Why would you know your clients' names?
But he just has this fantasy of, if my money's in the bank, then it's in a vault. Like, he thinks of, like, there's a Mike Lecomber briefcase in a vault. Everybody's trying to get in with their welding tools, and no one can seem to crack this Michael Lecomber vault. That's how he views it. But yeah, we went, he'd had his money in there, since he moved to Canada. Had some money in an RRSP, and then they had called to say, you're going to have to convert the RRSP into a RRIF next year.
Because he's 71, so at the end
because he's
of
super
the year.
old and weird. Yeah. So they were like, we're going to have an appointment. And then we go into the corner office. It was the first time I'd ever been into the corner office at this bank. I was like, this is really special.
Right. So whoever's in the corner office knows their stuff.
We had always been in, like, one of those center kind of cubicle E ones where, But yeah, now we're in the real deal. We're in the manager suite.
Right.
This is big time.
It's exciting.
And
because he's got a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, he had like some pretty substantial holdings at the bank, and they were like, okay, well, now you're going into this other realm, so you're going to talk to this person who has, we were told, like, 25 years experience helping people with this exact situation, and we went in there kind of blind, didn't really know. We're just kind of like, how much should we be withdrawing on an annual basis based on, his longevity, and it's always tricky, right? Because you're sort of saying, like, when are you guessing that you might pass away, right?
Right.
So it's like,
it's tough. It's a tough conversation.
But at the same time, I went in sort of with some questions, just sort of like, this is what is the RRIF going to be invested in? Or what should we invest the RRIF in? And there were no real answers for that question. It was just sort of like, I don't know, and then I was, well, how much do people normally withdraw when they have this, that was essentially my question, is what do people normally do in this situation? Like,
right.
What do you normally recommend? What would you say is the best strategy based on my dad's income, based on his longevity, based on his holdings in the RRSP? What strategy would you recommend? And the answer was, you should talk to an accountant. And I just thought, like, why, after 40 years of my dad paying fees into this institution, into this branch, this was the first time he'd had a question. This was the first question he'd ever had.
About his accounts.
About any accounts.
Right.
This is the first, 40 years of taking whatever thousands and thousands of dollars in fees, the first time he's ever asked them a question.
2.5% a year.
Yeah.
40 years.
40 years on all this money.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars is...
First time he's had a question. So this is probably, if you were to add it all up, this is a $75,000 question.
Right.
He's paid $75,000 to them over the years, and he gets one question, and they kind of go, I don't know. And
go ask an accountant and pay an accountant.
Yeah, and just for me, like, I was thinking, like, you're not even gonna guess, like, you're not even gonna, like, make something up.
Right.
Like, given the circumstances, this is a person who's paid you massive amounts of money for 40 years, finally has a question.
And you're the RRSP to RRIF
And you
expert.
are the RRSP to RRIF expert. You've been doing this for 25 years. You're in the corner office. You got 19 windows in here, and you don't have a thought on it. You don't even, like, you don't have, like, we literally just talked about grandkids. Like,
well, that's good $75,000 conversation.
to have a little, to look at some pictures of, isn't that cute? Look at him on a bike, like, we're looking at pictures of children on bikes, and I'm like, okay, well, my dad makes this per year with CPP and everything.
When did he retire?
He retired when he was 63.
And he has a pension?
No, he has no pension. Just CPP.
Just
like he has CPP, OAS, and that's it.
And he's never, and then I know this about Sean's dad, is he's blind and doesn't spend any money.
He is like a Depression era kid where like, I mean, it's just, it physically hurts him to spend $1.
Right.
And if a loony, like he's never paid for anything without his hand shaking. It's like just like he's always got a little bit of like ay,
right.
But so that's what's so funny. That's sort of the disconnect, right? It's like it's somebody who hates the idea of money leaving his pocket for any reason, thinks everybody's a bit of a scoundrel who's out to get him. But for some reason that doesn't transfer to the bank, right?
Right.
He doesn't look at them as somebody who's taking from him. He looks at them as they're keeping it safe.
And I understand that because coming out of the, sort of in that boomer generation, banks in, the 60s and 70s where they would have first started banking, it was a much different relationship. If you're going to think about it, like it wasn't about let's get you into debt, let's charge you more fees, let's increase your monthly fees It was about, let's help you get into that house. Let's help, and your money is safe here, and we're paying you a good interest rate for having your money in here. We're not overcharging you on fees, but as corporations grow, it becomes more about profit than the customer service experience.
Yeah, and it becomes like more cynical, right? Where like in the beginning it was like, yes, we want you to make, we want you to grow, we want your business to grow, so that you make more money and so that you put more money into the bank, right? I mean, it was still a business at that time, but it was just a different model. Now it's like, we don't care about you growing your business. We care about, we can make more money off of you if you're just in massive debt.
With these products, just products. And so what I know is, and so generally speaking, your dad's also not in the greatest health from a longevity standpoint. It's a
good thing he's not here because he would jump right now. He would like.
Well, I know you've told. I mean,
he wouldn't be able to find us.
You're a comedian because your dad was so happy all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
But what I know is he retired at 63. So a big conversation he should have had with his bankers is, when am I taking CPP and OAS? And when am I converting my RRSP into a RRIF to draw income? Because he will never need this income from his RRIF, right? He saves money every month off of CPP and OAS.
I don't know if there's anybody in the history of retirement who has made money, I'm sure there are a lot of people who, on their investments and whatnot, but even if he had no investments, he would be making money on CPP and OAS. Like he would be like, he has more money at the end of every month just based on that. He doesn't spend anything.
And so where that comes into play is, now what he has done is he has delayed his RRIF so that now he's going to have to start pulling out the minimum amount at 71, 72, which is going to be higher than what he needed to pull out if he could have started his RRIF at 63. And now what Sean tried to ask was, how much money should he be taking out of his RRIF every single year in order to sort of balance out the tax thing? And she said, I don't know, ask an accountant. And I had asked a guy that used to work at the bank, I said, how come they're not actually answering those questions? Because in my opinion, tax planning is more important than almost anything we do, because it's something that we can control in this business. Is how do we reduce your taxes? That's going to leave more money in your pocket. Well, the bankers aren't actually allowed to talk about it, because they know that your typical advisor that has just done the mutual funds course won't know the answer. So they say, instead of being like, guess what, only 10% of the people in here know the answer to that, they'll just say nobody answer that and just pretend that they need to talk to an accountant about that. But why do you need to pay an accountant to do that when you're paying your advisor $5,000 or $6,000 a year? What are they actually doing for you?
Yeah, so I guess they would say like, no, we're your investment advisor. I'm not your tax advisor. I'm not your estate planning advisor. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know what that even means. You know, and most people, they come in, they have a question. And I mean, that's what's so terrible about it is like, I'm assuming that the person that we were talking to did have the answers, right?
You would hope that after 25 years, they would have like looked at tax brackets and been like, okay,
this is what you can expect. Like,
you know, this is the withholding tax they're going to take off. And
oh yeah, they talked about what would be withheld, but you would think, my opinion when I went in there, I thought that they would be able to say, you know, if you take out this, then this is what'll be withheld, and based on his income, this is what you can expect to have just, you know, be gone at the end of the year. Like once you know, I would, that's what I thought, that they would be able to kind of give us a bit of a dollar figure on, you know, what the end of day taxation would be on that. And then we could sort of adjust, like, well, okay, this is what you're going to pay. You're going to get most of it back. If you're at the minimum, none's withheld. You won't pay anything in tax at the end of the year based on your income. So I knew that. But then it's, oh, what's the difference between 15 and 20? Right? What's the difference between 20 and 25? Like, what are we talking about? And the answer was there, you know, I can't talk to an accountant. Like, talk to an accountant. My dad hasn't paid an accountant $75,000 40-year retainer. Like, you know, like, I mean, why don't you guess? You know, like,
well, or have the answer, because it's
or have the answer.
Having the answer would be better. So, I mean, I guess we could talk about this situation for a long time, but it's something that, in my opinion, okay, you don't have to wait until the end of the year, till you're 71 to RRIF. In Sean's dad's case, he shouldn't have, because most likely now what's going to happen, and I mean, I hate to say this, but he's going to have a large RSP or RRIF balance the day that he passes away. And when this happens, then his estate is going to be taxed very heavily, and Sean and his sister and his brother are going to roughly lose, you know, 40 to 45% of his dad's wealth to taxes, because there wasn't pre-planning put in place where he said, instead, we're going to RRIF earlier. We're going to pull this out at, say, a 15% average tax rate over the rest of his life. He's going to have more money coming in than he actually needed, which he already does, but then we can put that into a TFSA or something, invest that somewhere else. Maybe he can do early gifts to his grandkids or his kids, take them on a vacation, or whatever else he wants to do, instead of leaving it in there just so he can pay a higher tax bill at the end of the day. And this is something that they should do. They're charging an arm and a leg for the service of saying, we're managing your investments, but I know that, you know, that's the easiest part, and there's always a less expensive way that should provide a higher rate of return, just because you're not paying 2.5% for that.
Yeah, and I totally understand that they would say like, well, we don't bill ourselves as financial planners, but they also know that most of the people who go there think they are, right? I mean, if you're, you know, somebody like my dad, that is his financial. He wouldn't trust anybody else to tell him what to do with his money. Then, and so they dine out on that.
Yeah.
And then when it comes right down to it, they say, wait a minute, you thought we were a financial planner? It's like, well, yeah, I kind of spent 40 years thinking that we were, assumption. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess that's the way it goes.
And the business is changing, and we're trying to be a part of it for sure. And, you know, that's all we can do is talk about it. And so I know it kind of bothered me, like, are you kidding me? Like, Sean had more answers for his dad before we had even talked about it than this lady with 25 years experience in the corner office did. And that really bothered me because I know how much money your dad is being charged all the time, just to have his money sitting in that vault.
Yeah, in the imaginary vault that everybody's trying to weld their way into,
Right.
and but so I guess we lose out in the end. Perfect.
Perfect. Absolutely. But anyway, super excited to introduce you guys to Sean. We're going to do a lot of fun things. We're working on a podcast where I'm going to walk him through, learning step-by-step financial planning from A to Z, so that at the end of it, he should know a lot.
Come on, have a little faith.
Well,
We'll know a lot.
And as will anybody that listens to it, because it'll be good. He'll ask the questions that you would probably be asking at home, and obviously we're gonna try and make it a little bit entertaining. At least he will, and I'll just give my boring take on everything else.
No. You're exciting. Okay, give yourself some credit.
Right. You've seen me open for you before.
We're a couple of the strongest middle acts in Alberta.
Yeah.
And you know your stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
For sure. All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, K4.